Hi, Paul.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. You put your guitar down.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You were
I would
strumming
never
my pain
annoy
with your
you
fingers.
I'd never annoy you with my
Killing me
early
softly
morning.
with your song. No, there's no annoying. I love your music. I do prefer it when you're dressed like a pirate. Yeah, that's it. That's the only chord he knows, you guys. I'm so sorry.
Only chord I know.
He thinks he's in a band.
It is the first song everyone learns.
What is it? Stairway to Heaven?
No,
Is this Horse with No Name? Hey, you can't play this. We don't own it. We just got sued by America. Yeah.
there's no bad press.
Um,
Okay, how are you?
fair enough.
I'm psyched to talk about this episode.
I'm psyched to talk about. Okay, I did not know that the That's Good Pie scene was in this episode.
Okay.
And so I was taken by surprise.
Yeah, I kept expecting it, and then I forgot about
Gave
it. And
up.
suddenly there it was.
It's my favorite scene, maybe that I did in the entire show, but certainly that I did with you.
Is that
like,
true?
I loved that scene so much, and I still haven't found my scripts from season 2. I have one more place to look, but I am dying to go back into that scene and see if that was line for line, because so much of what you did felt so. I was like, did he just make that up? Dollop of smack, pinch of crack?
I talked to the writer of that episode, Nick Santoro, recently on the telephone, and he mentioned that episode. He wrote that episode.
Yeah.
And I said, because I didn't remember exactly, I said, did I ask permission to deliver That's Good Pie?
As
like
Mr. Hanky, the Christmas Pooh?
Towley. It's actually Towley.
Howdy-ho, everybody.
I'm a towel. You're a towel.
Yeah,
But
but
this is a South Park
Fair
thing
enough.
from
Yeah.
that time. Yeah, and I don't know where it came from or why.
amazing.
And I was surprised that they let me do it, and I'm glad
Amazing.
that it worked. I think that there's something. I mean, tell me why you liked the scene so much. I can tell you why I liked doing it.
Well, okay, should we like actually intro the show and do
yeah,
the
let's intro the show.
Palestine
This
Index
is-
and all that stuff so that people
this
know what the
This is
hell we're
Prison
talking about?
Break.
Hi, welcome to
Break.
Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul. If you were looking for
this
a
is-
different rewatch, you're in the wrong place.
This is episode 204, and it is
Yeah.
called First Down.
First
Which is
down.
not a football reference.
No. Just so confusing to me because I know so much about football.
Uh-huh. And well, watching the show, it becomes clear why it's called that. Let's jump into our Palestine Index.
Take it away, Paul.
Okay. Episode 204 was titled First Down, which I'm sure is only a football reference. Wow, I already said that.
I put it in the little script, though, so you had to say it again.
Yeah, I did. Okay. Episode 204, First Down, aired on September 11th, 2006. It was directed by returning director Bobby Roth, written by Nick Santora, one of the show's core writers, who I recently spoke to on the phone, as I mentioned. The episode delivered 8.96 million live viewers in the 8 p.m. time slot against ABC's special Path to 9/11 and a rerun of How I Met Your Mother on CBS, and on NBC another 9/11 related special titled Dateline NBC Flight 93.
NBC really failed to read the room on that one, hey? Or so, no, CBS. Like, everyone's
CBS.
like, let's talk about 9/11. CBS is like, let's talk about How I Met Your Mother.
And Fox is like,
Fox has only been talking about 9/11
Yeah,
since
that's true.
9/11, so
like,
nothing
let's take
changed.
a break from 9/11 to show you episode 204.
Totally. Okay. Although, actually, when I was looking at the stuff for the index, I believe that our lead-in for this show was an address from the president.
Oh,
I believe there was a presidential address on the state
fifth
of
anniversary. Yeah.
things of Anyway, to recap the episode. This, by the way, is a mashup of several recaps that I read because some of them were straight up unhinged, and some of them were like a haiku. I was like, that told me nothing.
Okay.
So if you don't like this recap, it's on me. Michael, Lincoln, and Nika, Michael's legal wife, are attacked and
I was a little
captured
angry when she says that.
by
Sounds a little-
No, I actually love her. are attacked and captured by Bellick and Geary. Geary,
Geary
who, as it turns out, want Westmoreland's money, not the bounty on
doesn't.
Michael and Lincoln. Nika takes Bellick's knife while giving him a lap dance and frees the brothers. And then Bellick reveals Sarah's condition, which is, spoiler alert, not great. Nika double crosses Michael and Link, planning to deliver them to the law for the bounty. They foil that plan. Meanwhile, Tweener gets involved with his road trip partner, the adorable Deborah Jean. He doesn't tell her who he is. And Abruzzi learns of Fibonacci's whereabouts and goes to kill him over the strenuous objections of his wife. But the address is a setup by Mahone to capture him. And when Abruzzi refuses to surrender, he is fatally shot.
First down.
Mahone is blamed for the way he handled the situation, and elsewhere, Kellerman and Dr. Sara get to know one another under the false pretenses of a Narcotics Anonymous meeting.
In pop culture news, on September 8th, Justin Timberlake dropped his second studio album titled Future Sex / Love Sounds, which included the hit single Sexy Back. On that same day, Whitney Houston filed for legal separation with intent to divorce from her husband, Bobby Brown. They'd been married for 14 years, full of controversy.
Ups and downs.
And September 7th was the first regular season game of NFL's 87th season. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who were the reigning Super Bowl champions, defeated the Miami Dolphins 28-17.
Also on September 7th, in world events, British Prime Minister Tony Blair announced that he'd be stepping down. The day before, on September 6th, U.S. President George W. Bush confirmed for the first time that the CIA had held high-value detainees in secret interrogation centers. He also announced that 14 senior captives were being transferred from CIA custody to military custody at Guantanamo Bay. Basically, for those of you following along, this was sort of the beginning announcement and acknowledgement of Gitmo, which was not a high point in human rights. In more peaceful news, on September 11th, this is something that I did not know anything about until our intern sent me this for the what was going on this week, and I love it so much. On September 11th, India celebrated the 100th anniversary of, I apologize for my pronunciation, I'm going with Satyagraha, Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolent resistance. Satyagraha played a crucial role in India's independence movement. It began on September 11th, 1906, when speaking before 3,000 Indians at a theater in Johannesburg, South Africa. Gandhi organized a strategy of nonviolent resistance to oppose racist policies of South African apartheid. I actually move that we foreground this every September 11th.
Yeah,
that
seriously.
It become a day of international commitment to nonviolence.
And with that, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the episode.
Quick break. Okay. Welcome back. We have a lot to talk about.
Yes. So tell me, you were saying in the introduction that you loved shooting that scene, or that's one of your favorite scenes. I'm curious as to why. Because usually you like burning people with irons, choking people.
I actually don't. Those are not my favorite scenes. I liked it partly because, just from a technical perspective, often in Prison Break, the show exists in close quarters and you have cameras quite close to your faces. And so you're very aware of the process of filming while you're filming, which is not my favorite. And I remember Bobby set up some really long lensy things and there's some legit wides of just the two of us sitting out there. And I like that sense of air. I like that you can see both people for most of the scene. And you genuinely made me laugh. And I realized...
Oh, maybe that's why I did it.
It might have been. Yeah. Because there's so little laughter in the show. Yeah. I mean, there's Abruzzi's ha ha ha, and the teabag laughs at you and you're like, oh God, someone's going to die.
But moments of levity.
There and joy. Yeah. And now, granted, it's all based on a house of cards, but Sarah doesn't know it yet. But, and I love it. And I loved shooting it.
You mentioned during the rewatch, when we were doing the rewatch, which you can all listen to, you can subscribe to our Patreon. That there's a scene that precedes the pie scene where we're getting coffee.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of apologized to you. I said I was a dick, and you're like, "Well, I shouldn't have talked out of turn." And I was like, "No, you shouldn't have." But you said, "Oh, it's such a cool scene. We never look at each other."
No, I
Which
couldn't.
we're both going through those ones. We're both going through like a coffee
It's
dessert
like a coffee
line
service
thing,
thing. Yeah.
and we never look at each other. And I think the thing, now that you've brought it up, that both those scenes have in common, and certain shows don't have a lot of this,
Mm.
is just behavior.
Yeah.
Prison Break doesn't have, unless you're like folding a paper crane or injecting
Mhm.
somebody. In terms of just
Yeah.
natural behavior, it's a heightened show. Every scene, something kind of crucial is happening, and something is
Yeah.
being some either information or some want from the other person is
Yeah.
very, very urgent. So there is a lot of declaiming that, like, you must blah
Yeah.
blah blah. We have to get to
Yeah.
that blah, which is
Right.
real and natural. But I think when we
Right.
use the word naturalistic, sometimes what we talk about is just behaving, sitting there and eating. Like the stakes on their surface
Hmm.
at the coffee thing and on the steps eating the pie are very, very low. The
Right.
audience knows the stakes are high because Kellerman is obviously up to something. But in terms of what's going
Right.
on screen,
Yeah.
the stakes are just two people getting to know each other, which this show frankly doesn't have a lot of. And I think that it was also, I, really, the show benefited from, and certainly the fun of it benefited from. There's a lot of ways for someone to ingratiate themselves to somebody else. I could have
Hmm.
gone to you with a sob story about my own
Yeah.
addiction or fallen down or
Yeah.
done something, but he actually kind of leads with warmth and joy and I'm not a threat. And that
Yeah.
is a very different vibe. So much of the show has a
Well,
sense of almost, this kind of ominous feeling of there's a threat around every corner. And so this feeling of, hey, nothing
yeah.
bad's going on here. It's airy, it's light out, we're eating pie, is really the kind of hard right turn of that is a breath of fresh
Hmm.
air in that it kind of
Hmm.
wakes you up and says, "Oh, what's going on here?"
Well, although
So many
what
metaphors. Yeah, go on.
going 2 scenes back, what I think is kind of brilliant is Kellerman, and by Kellerman I think I mean Santora in this moment, had the foresight to go, the way you get Sarah's attention is to make her feel guilty for something, and she will apologize and feel indebted. Do you know what I mean? Like this
Uh,
idea of like, you interrupted me. What are you, a doctor? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to tell, because I haven't been to an AA meeting, but from what I understand, like not
you're
interrupting
not
somebody
supposed to
while they're
interrupt. Yeah,
sharing is like a big
big deal.
deal.
Yeah,
And, obviously she's sort of new to the program, I think in some ways, or, to that meeting, but um
it's a,
the setting the trap with, you interrupted my healing process, is an interesting way
and
of hooking
and that
her.
he apologizes to her.
Yes.
Do you know? I've probably said this on this podcast before, but do you know why it's called a confidence game?
Because you're gaining somebody's
No, because
confidence.
no, it's the opposite. You're showing confidence in them. Like
Oh, interesting.
a con is like at a Western Union where money gets wired, is you saying you need my money just came in. Here's $200. And the person going, no, 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 I can't take that. Be like, no, I insist, and them taking it, and then you bumping into them later and then
Right.
giving you $500 because you showed confidence in them, then they trust you.
Right.
So the fact that he says,
Right.
he gives this MS story,
Uh-huh.
setting a hook basically because she's a doctor,
Yeah. I'm a victim.
but also
You're a
knowing that you're
doctor.
a
You
doctor,
can
you know
help.
more about it than I do,
Absolutely.
and that
Well, and you'll correct me.
you'll correct me, and that
Yeah.
I'll blanch against that, setting you up, but then apologizing to you for snapping at you,
Hmm.
me humbling
Right.
myself and being like, I didn't
Hmm.
mean to be. It's a great hook.
Hmm. There's a lot of layer and a lot of nuance, and it makes, what I love about it is that it makes Kellerman look smart without making Sarah look dumb. And I think
100%.
that can be very difficult. It's, there's a bit of a sense watching it of like, man, this is a good rap.
Yeah,
This is a really, really good
and also
rap.
it shows. I like that it shows his skill set. Like he's special forces and special Secret Service, but there is a special forces CIA overlap, and there's a lot of psychological training in there for counter espionage and counter espionage. And it's so funny when I was doing all the research on it and what I really like, what aligned perfectly on it. And we were making the show Imposters, which is about con artists. One of the things I love learning this stuff we were talking about is that it's very similar to the kind of acting technique that I've always ascribed to, which is the Meisner technique, which is basically the other person's more important. How are you making them feel?
Yeah.
Con is the same thing. Just like an act. It's like, and so as
that's really,
it's just like, how am I making her feel like I could find my script and see what I wrote in the margins, like in those little Meisner hints, which is like, make her feel safe, warmly, make her feel, liked fraternally. Like I made sure that there was nothing sexual or flirty. And that it was that it was warm, but also, the thing about con artists, again, or any kind of undercover operative, is that you have to actually connect with the person a little bit. You can't fake it.
No,
like you have to actually
fake.
And I think that he likes her and respects her, and that allows him to do his job better because, it's easy to become friends with her if she'll have him.
Well, and okay, so two things. I have a question I want to ask you in a second, but we just did a cool bonus episode with Barbara Eve Harris, and she said something really cool about her first day on set.
Right.
She a little bit, as the character and as the actor, fell in love with Bill Fichtner / Mahone because the work was so riveting. And I think there is something to that. There's something to like, audiences can smell bullshit and they can smell anything that's not authentic. And you can't fake chemistry. You can't fake connection. And even, I think, I apologize for bringing this up because it sounds so pretentious. I think it was Marlon Brando, and it was Wentworth who told me this, that Marlon Brando said, in a scene, if you love someone or you hate them, it doesn't matter.
Right.
The audience will sense the connection. If you are indifferent, nobody's going to care. Yeah. And, talking about the phone call, we mentioned this a little bit on the rewatch, but it is wild to do a scene like that. I always ask if I can call in for the other person. Be like, can you make 100%. This a real phone? I can't remember on
what
the
Sara's
day.
saying is that she had this scene where she steps away and she gets a call. It's the first time she's talked to Michael the entire season since the breakout. And it's obviously an emotional conversation. And she's like, oh, I had to just shoot that. And with somebody else reading his lines off camera, conceivably.
I think, but I also, like, there's also a possibility
that you called
that
it.
Because Wentworth and I were pretty good at that. That, like, there's a possibility that I was like, I know that you're not.
I know that he wasn't
today.
on set,
but
he certainly
I don't know.
Called. Yeah.
And quite frankly, he might have been in, later that afternoon. But to just be like, can we get a working phone and can we actually have this conversation? Because it was monumental, and his work on the other side of it is so fantastic.
You need that connection too. It's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah. Okay, so also, and this is a small thing, I mentioned in the rewatch, I don't know that I've ever been as stressed on this show as I was for Lane's towel. He was so close to that towel coming off that I was like,
they're Velcroed.
Please tell me that somebody stapled that.
They're Velcroed, which is another one of those things that once you see it on set, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. The people
because
put Velcro
then
on the
every time I see a movie where somebody's in a towel, I'm like, that towel's awfully tight. Like that towel. I mean, I cannot walk from my bathroom to my closet without my towel falling off.
Now, see, I can, but that's because I'm from Hawaii and we learned how to tie
Yeah, I
like
can't do that
pareu
shit.
and towels and things. That's a thing. Um, there was something else we mentioned in the watch party that I want to follow up on. The woman who plays John Abruzzi's wife. We were like, wait, I know her. And she's so good. So we looked her up. Her name is Danielle DeVecchio. She did 10 episodes of The Sopranos, wherein she played Tony Soprano's
Barbara Soprano.
sister, Barbara. Nice pull. Um, and she's fantastic. And looking at her IMDb, her resume, she's done a lot of Italian wives. And not a whole lot else. And so I wonder if she has like since moved on and she's like the attorney general of
Sure.
Delaware or something. I don't know. She's probably doing something fascinating
I
with her
love
life.
actors like that who can, I mean, go show up on a show. She probably did a day on Prison Break, right? Maybe two. And she's tasked with having a complete.
Yeah.
I don't remember if she's in season 1 when the kids come to visit him. I kind of feel like she wasn't.
I don't think
Yeah,
so. It said
that
she was in
you're
one episode.
tasked with showing up, standing opposite Peter Stormare, who's been on the show for years, and being able to, and
is a
being
force
like
of an actor.
having the gravitas to have this conceivably 25-year marriage with this person and bringing all that history and all that. It's one of the hardest assignments in acting, I think, to show up and have that built-in history with somebody, and you totally buy it.
100%. And as a guest star who has virtually no status on the show, you have to show up and take it to Peter. You have to show up and run the scene and be like, no, motherfucker, you are not leaving. Like, that takes it takes a real talent. And she,
I agree.
I believed every inch of it. I was like, I want a whole episode around her. I was so curious about Mrs. Abruzzi. So unfortunately, we'll never see it because R.I.P. John Abruzzi. He has now been killed for the second time on the show.
I have a question.
As you do.
Do you think the whole time you think that Barbara Jean is betraying? You think that you think she's the rat, right?
I thought Lane was the rat. I think when he was saying, not Lane, but Tweener, because he was the rat season 1. In fact, I think there was even an episode called The Rat. So I think the misdirect when Mahone says the rat might be the first one, the rat might give us our first caller, whatever it is. I do think the misdirect is that Barbara Jean is on the phone with Mahone, not her pops.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yes, right.
For sure. But I think the rat refers to Tweener trading Michael Scofield's secrets for fries.
Copy that.
Yeah, Fibonacci's the rat. But it's that wonderful classic Prison Break, like, we're going to two places, we open one door.
I love it.
And it's not the place we thought. And I do deeply, deeply love that.
Can we talk about the just how much mileage, no pun intended, they get out of the just how terrifying it is when Teabag is on camera.
Is on camera.
Just with around other humans. Like he kind of works out his relationship with the Fox River 8 in the first season, that they kind of have him boxed in because he needs something from them. And now that he's unleashed on the world, like every time he walks into a room, you're like, this person's going to die. And then,
to see him with a kid.
That's also,
I mean,
sorry, but it's such a great piece of writing that you're worried for this guy who's gonna, I'm a vet, and and da da da, and I'll give you a ride, and then you're like, I think this guy should do that, and then there's a kid in the car. So is he an equal opportunity predator, or he's not? The idea is he was having homosexual sex in prison because just that's what he does in prison, and he's just a horrible rapist, but that his predilection is for young girls.
Well, certainly his relationship with Mrs. Hollander argues for somebody who at least has some part of a heterosexual male thing. But then when it comes to kids, I don't know if we've ever learned anything gender-wise about his
We
preferences.
learned later that he was horribly abused and all that.
Yes. Yeah, we learn that.
All right, that's enough of that.
Well, and certainly, like, I think you get the sense that there's sex for power,
Of course,
which
yes.
is what a lot of the prison
Yeah.
hierarchy seems to demand. There's his unending search for a family. Do you know what I mean? Which is like messed up with Mrs. Hollander. Because I don't think, here's the weird thing, right? I think when we get into the backstory of Teabag, he never messes with Mrs. Hollander's kids. It's that she finds out.
I think the implication is that he's going to, though. I think there's some pretty scary scenes where he's giving him the eyeball.
I mean, I gotta look at this again, but it feels like
We're gonna get there soon.
Well, and it feels like he's trying not to. Like he's not with Mrs. Hollander because he's trying to get to her kids. He genuinely has a thing for her and is trying to fight this other part of himself. And maybe loses the war. We'll learn more as we go. It's all some of it's like hard to watch.
Hard to watch.
But not hard to watch was the Country Road song. I really enjoyed that.
With Tweener and Barbara Jean.
Barbara Jean, who reminds me more and more.
Barbara Jean?
Barbara Jean. I think so. Deborah Jean. Sorry, it was
Jean.
Barbara.
Sorry, apologies.
Barbara Giglione was the Sopranos.
Got it.
Thing. Deborah Jean, who looks so much like a grown-up Cindy Lou Who. She's.
I mean, now that you've
so
said
adorable.
it, I can't not see it.
Cannot see it.
Country Roads, by the way, as I'm sure our listeners and watchers know now, has become. I mean, it was a big song when we were kids, kind of in a sing around the campfire way.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was almost that song had disappeared for years, and now it is ubiquitous.
You
I don't know if it's a
mentioned
TikTok thing.
I
was watching the Monday Night Football, and 80,000 people, Mile High Stadium, were singing it like during a commercial break.
Well, Mile High Stadium, to be fair, it is John Denver.
Country Road.
Yeah.
What's the? Oh, because his name is Denver.
Yeah, his name's
Was he
John
a
Denver.
Colorado guy?
Yeah.
It's a song about West Virginia.
Fair enough, but he was like I thought he was a Colorado guy.
He must have been a Colorado guy, an Aspen guy.
I could be totally wrong. That's also not his real name, so he picked it. Yeah, I mean, like I was telling you, that song was really huge when I was growing up in Hawaii because Israel Kamaka Viva Ole, which I have only ever had trouble saying on this podcast. It's sort of embarrassing. Okay. He, Brada is, covered it because the country is like the North Shore of Oahu. And so like if you're going to the country, you're going to the North Shore. And as I mentioned the first time I heard that song, I was like, oh my God, they covered an Israel song. And everybody got really quiet. And I was like, this is the backwards version of my childhood.
Yeah. More for episode 204. I wrote down Eric Norris, who was our stunt coordinator, who is an incredible stunt coordinator, really top of the line. And we were talking about how, I mean, the car chase
is so good.
Is really good when Bellick is chasing Michael and Lincoln. And I wonder, I mean, there is a shot, and it is clearly Dominic at the wheel, and it is clearly Wade in the passenger seat with Geary driving. And the cars come, they do that thing where like they go like that. And I think, did they
bump the sides,
shoot that?
I wonder if it was it maybe a stunt double for Geary driving? Is it possible?
Geary driving fine, but you still have to. I mean, Dom may have been being towed.
Yeah, Dom would also have been like, dude, it's fine. I can just do it.
Yeah, no. Also, wrong side of the road, like all sorts of issues there.
Well, yeah, he's been driving on the right for a long time. Hasn't he?
And wait, did they drive on the right in Australia?
I have no idea.
Okay. Anyway, yes.
Toilets flush backwards.
And then that car hitting the tree is no joke. Like they messed those cars up. A lot of times on TV, for budgetary reasons and for time, they cheat those kinds of stunts. And between Gary Brown, who was our unit production manager and a Dallas native and kind of tapped
Yeah.
into the helicopters and the
Oh yeah.
and the stunt stuff. And then Eric Norris, who grew up, Eric Norris is one of Chuck Norris's sons.
Yep.
Um,
And grew up on the set of
and
Walker, Texas Ranger.
right. And many other things I would imagine. And just a really great stunt coordinator. Those are really good stunts. And it
Those were amazing
really
stunts.
ups the production value and the stakes of the show.
Yeah, it really does. And it does kind of continue that Brett Ratner thing that we started in the pilot, which is this looks like a feature.
Yeah, I mean, TV
and that
doesn't,
was
even
impressive.
24 at that time, they weren't doing stunts like that.
They weren't in Texas. I mean, Eric was a cowboy, like a straight up wild man. There were things I was like, we're gonna what? And it was, it was cool. I mean, thankfully nobody ever got hurt. We've got some really beautiful footage.
All the train stuff. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it was really wild. I would, it'd be interesting to see if we could get Eric on here to talk about
Oh, I would love that.
the ways in which some of this stuff has changed now and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do and insurance and that would be really cool. I also I have a note here.
Yeah.
Westmoreland stab.
Okay. From this episode, he's dead.
Yeah. I know. Or Westmoreland stash, maybe?
Stash.
Any idea what that note would be?
Oh,
about?
yes, because this week,
That's it.
there's actually news that DB Cooper's relatives are saying that somebody found the money, or
They think that's right. They think they identified actual DB Cooper this week.
him or the money.
I think the money. I think the issue was always who is DB Cooper. Let me see real quick what happens if I pull this up, and then we can get to some fan questions.
Yeah.
DB Cooper. Where's news? News.
Let's take a quick break and we'll come back with that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, we're back. Hold on.
Okay.
Sarah,
Okay, we're back.
read this now.
Okay,
This is
so
the news
listen,
of this week. This
this was published November 26th,
2024.
2024. This is the New York Post, but there are a bunch of other articles. Siblings claim late dad is mysterious plane hijacker DB Cooper after finding hidden parachute in home. Quote, 1 in a billion. Wait for it. A pair of North Carolina siblings claim their late father is the ever-elusive Boeing hijacker DB Cooper after allegedly finding his parachute hidden in their home, according to a new report. Shantae and Rick McCoy. Oh my God, meaning he would be the real McCoy.
No!
This is too good.
Chef's
Rick
kiss.
McCoy II claimed their father, Richard McCoy Jr., who would be the real McCoy, was the infamous fugitive who disappeared when he leaped out of a Boeing plane with $200,000 in cash after taking passengers and crew hostage in 1971, the Cowboy State Daily reports.
I hope he
Siblings said they
invested that
waited
money.
until their
That's a-
mother's death in 2020 to come forward, fearing she would be implicated, as the parachute that allegedly belonged to Cooper was found in her storage stashed outside the house. Wait, let's just see.
Okay, can I?
That rig is literally 1 in a million. Apparently there's only one. Oh, and they also do. Okay, first of all, apparently the parachute is very, very specific, but also they have a side-by-side of DB Cooper, the police sketch, and a
Mr.
picture of Richard
Mr.
McCoy. And the real McCoy does actually look a bit like DB Cooper.
Can I ask you a question?
We.
First of all, I thought it was a lot more than $200,000. On Prison Break, I think it's $5 million.
No, I think isn't that the reveal? That he's like,
That's later, but I think they think it's $5 million, right?
I think they think it's $1 million.
Okay.
And he's like,
right,
it's
it's $1
5.
million.
I can't, yeah.
Okay,
something.
here's my question. If you were DB Cooper or McCoy and you jumped out of a plane in 1971 with a parachute, why would you keep the parachute?
I don't know. Maybe that's why do serial killers keep trinkets from their victims?
That
it
is
just
because they want to revisit the horror of it. All right, let's move on.
maybe because disposing of the parachute would leave evidence that other people could find. I don't know. Paul, you're so cynical.
It's so cynical. So cynical. That's not cynical.
You're so cynical. Just let us have this.
Okay,
Just
fine,
let us have.
fine.
Let us have. By the way, not just that we found DB Cooper,
But his
but
name's
he's
the
the
real
real
McCoy.
McCoy.
And there was kids like, now give us the
Can't
friggin'
write this.
money.
I I don't know. I didn't finish reading the article, but
Okay.
I think they actually have. There's something, if I scroll down, they like have a decomposed bill that might be the same. I don't know. Anyway, um, let's look at some fan questions
Okay, good.
here.
At San Juan Wang, uh, they asked, were there any unscripted moments that were kept in the show? And we were just discussing that in the pie scene, and I don't think so. We didn't really improvise much. I mean, physically unscripted stuff would come, and sometimes a line or two would get added, but usually not on the day.
That would be an interesting question. I don't know. Do I think it's possible that Lane made up some of those country ho take me home lyrics? I do. He was super funny and
Oh, that's true. I think Lane would go to town more than
I
others.
mean, I think
Also appropriate to the character.
super, super. And he had a
I mean,
real
I feel
handle.
like he put a yo in almost
And
everywhere.
he had a
Yeah,
real
yeah.
handle on who Tweener was.
Um,
He, by the way, was the
yeah,
only Dallas native in the cast. He's going to
yeah.
come on the show and we're going to talk about that. But he was coming home.
Here's another question
Okay.
for you. At Alessia.Wallace, in season 2, Sarah, you cut and colored your hair, or conceivably somebody else did, I'd imagine. Was this your decision that they wrote into the show, that they had to write into the show because you did it in between seasons? Or did they write it in and ask you to do it as part of
Yeah.
the story?
So that was the decision that the show made. They wanted me to cut off as much as I could to be on the run.
Aha.
Once we got to that point. And it was it was it became this sort of like hair gate thing.
Yeah, it always does.
We tried on like 4 or 5 different wigs of different lengths. It's almost a Hawaii thing. Like having long hair has always been like kind of part of
Yeah,
who I am. And
yeah,
I was like, no, I'm totally
yeah.
willing to cut it, but also let's not cut it as something that's going to look awful. And so we ended up cutting it quite short. We wanted it to look really kind of shaggy. And I was going to LA to do some press around that time. And there was a guy that had been cutting my hair for years. And so we had him do it. And I thought he did a good job. And I found out at the end of the season that it had really upset the show hairstylist, that she'd been really hurt that
Oh,
he had done it and not her. And I had no idea. Do you know what I mean? Like she never came to me and was like, hey, I'd really love to do this. I think it'd be cool. And that was really like, I felt bad about that. I felt really bad about that
mm-hmm.
because had I known, we could have absolutely worked something out. So belated apology that ended up causing hurt. The color was a bit. We're jumping ahead a little bit in time here, but the color partly got chosen because I went in for there to just do my roots
Yeah.
around the time. I think we were doing the color, and then I was going to go to LA for the cut. It was all around the same time. And she put the color on that she always does. As a hairstylist on the show who did it all the time. She was brilliant. And then she took the color out and my hair went black. It never happened before. And we were like,
Wow.
oh, shoot, this is not what it's ever
Uh-uh.
been before.
Well, what do you do about that?
Well, I went over to Nanette, who was our makeup artist, who joined the cast,
Mm-hmm.
joined the show in season 2, and was like the heart and soul of the show. Just like one of the loveliest human
Mm-hmm.
beings ever to walk the face of the earth. And she looked at me and she goes, honey, pick up a pregnancy test on your way home. And I was like, what? And she goes,
Come on. What?
she's like, I've been watching your skin for the last week. She's like, I've been doing this a long time. She said, pick up a pregnancy test on your way home. And I picked up a pregnancy test on my way home. And we'd been trying to, have a baby. Like it wasn't an accident by any means, but we had stopped trying the way you do. Do you know what I mean? You like try. And then you're like, I think this trying is probably getting in the way.
We're trying too hard.
And like, this process should be fun. So let's just make it fun. And
Right.
I remember my mom was in town and she came over for dinner and
It's amazing.
and I was like, okay, so I'm going to drink a big glass of something and, water or something. I can't remember what.
Stick.
And I'm going to pee in a stick. And sure enough, like bright pink, I think it's 2 lines. I can't remember what the thing, but
You had COVID.
yes, sure enough, I delivered COVID. But it was really wild because Nono was the first person.
Does this have something to do with the hair
Yeah.
color?
Yeah, that the hormones changed the way the color landed, which doesn't make sense to me because there's no hormones in this, right? Like this is dead. But all I can say is, the hair person was like, oh shit. And we were like, no, it's okay. We're going to cut it. We're going to change it for the show anyway. Like we'll make this work. And I went over to Nono so that she could look at my skin and figure out like, how do we balance your complexion with black hair? And she was like, I've noticed for the last week.
Can I ask how, at that point, so we're in episode, this is before, so you were pregnant the entire season?
No. This was, so cutting the hair happens mid-season. So I got pregnant in.
Oh, okay. We're not there yet.
No, because I got pregnant in, I want to say October. And we started shooting in July. Because by the time
Were you pregnant when we shot the bathroom scene?
I don't think so. I know I was pregnant I was. We'll have to see what number it was. I think I did the math, and I think it's episode like 10 or so, 9 or 10 that I was pregnant. I do know I was pregnant for the train because I had the worst morning sickness.
Oh, on that shaky ass.
Oh God, it was. I threw up so much. I barfed so many times.
I know? I can't remember if I knew. I don't feel like I did.
I told Wentworth.
Sure. But I just mean, I don't mean it as friends. I mean, like from a stunt perspective,
I think we'll see what scenes those are. I think that was beforehand. I think that was just beforehand.
I can't imagine that wouldn't have been.
Well, I would have at least told you and Norris. I wouldn't have put you in the position of like, oh dear God, something awful happened and you didn't know that you could have been a part of that. Yeah.
Because I was planning on surprising you with a punch to the stomach.
I'm just going to kick her in the gut real quick to see if she's paying attention.
Speaking of which, okay, I think that's what we have. I think that's all.
We've gone way ahead.
We have a lot of questions from fans that we'll get to. Thank you for them. Thank you for being here with us. Don't forget to subscribe to the Watch Party and other bonus content on our Patreon link, including Fan Fiction Fridays. And the link to the Patreon is on the show page, wherever you're listening right now.
And just quick wrap-up question for you. I know I've already asked you where you would go, but what do you think you'd be on the run from? What crime would you have committed? Would you be a white-collar criminal? Would you have died defending the honor of
sure. Like a Jean Valjean thing? I would have stolen bread from my family. I'll go with that.
Totally. You stole 2 candlesticks from a church.
Yes, I would say I killed some horrible, or let's say incapacitated some horrible person. And
right, you vigilante justice.
I was clearly falsely accused or unjustly accused, but I had to run, kind of like Harrison Ford in The Fugitive.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't have a wife.
All right,
but I think, God, what would I? Yeah, hopefully something. Of great moral purpose that I just had to do.
Okay. Sorry. That was a big question to spring on you at the last minute.
It's a big question.
I apologize. But thank you everybody for being here and think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you were going to go to jail, what would you go to jail for?
Oh my God.
Anyway, maybe don't think about it. Prison Breaking with Sara and Paul is a Caliber Studio production.
Your hosts have been inmates Sarah Wayne Callis and Paul Edelstein.
Our prison warden is producer Ben Haber.
The frontman of our Jailhouse Rock band is me, Paul Edelstein, who made all our music.
Our prison yard tattoo artist, logo, and brand designer is John Nunziato at Little Big Brands. Check them out at www.littlebig.brands.com.
Follow us on Instagram at Prison Break Podcast. Email us at pbpodcast@caliber-studio.com. And call us at 401-3-PBreak.
Prison Breaking with Sara and Paul has been a Caliber Studio production. Thank you for listening. Void where prohibited, not available in all 50 states. Actually, we are available in all. Anyway, bye.
Prison break.